nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, second thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes. We have two sets of minutes to approve. Lori did send them out, and I printed them for everybody, so we all have copies. Did you want to take a few minutes to review them?
Yeah, I don't recall getting them emailed to me.
Lori emailed them.
Yeah, do you want my copies? I
Or
have.
if you
Yeah, I
said you had
think you
copies.
yeah, the packet I
They're in
gave
here?
you, there's
Oh, okay.
copies of both of them.
Perfect, thank you.
So there's a set for October 15th and another set for January 13th. So if you take a few minutes to review it, and when you're done, I'll take a motion for that. Sorry.
Let's see, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 13th and October 10th, was it?
15th.
October 15th.
I'll second that.
Any comments, questions, corrections?
Yeah, because I'd like input if I'm not doing them.
Looks good to me.
Okay.
Good
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah, it looks good to me, yeah.
That's why I said we ought to approve.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Great job, Lord.
Okay, all right,
A lot
so,
better than I would ever have done.
Amen.
no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Alright. Liaison reports.
Fire department,
Fire department, yeah.
I had a very good meeting with Wayne and Dan a week ago yesterday. It was a long meeting, of course, I was talking, but Wayne did an excellent job explaining his budget, what the needs are and what they're looking forward to in the future. I did promote a question on the wages, because the wages we're paying, my research, are kind of low. I'm not talking about the fire chief, I'm talking about the firemen, EMT people. The big thing that, big ticket item anyway, that he's looking for this coming year is to order a new ambulance. And the ticket on that is, at today's price, is about $450,000. And I told Wayne, well, I didn't tell Wayne, Dan and I and Wayne talked, and the money for this ambulance, with our conversation anyway, our opinion, was this money should come from our fund balance. So, because obviously this is one of the reasons that we have this money, is for big expenses in the future. And I guess the future's here. And Wayne said right now, there's a 2-year waiting period before you can get one. So, we definitely need to, I feel anyway, that we need to move forward with that. And
Is this an increase in an ambulance, or are we gonna trade in an old one, or?
We're not, the intent is not to trade in the old one. If you remember, there's been conversation about us having 2 ambulances. The one we have now is 10 and 12 years old, and it's starting to require more and more, like all vehicles. The older it gets, the more expensive the repairs and maintenance are. So what the chief's thought was, they would keep that as a backup ambulance. Just in case we needed a second one, you know, I was out on a call, and we get another call of another town needs some help, we'd have the second one. I really don't think that, talking with him, that when you buy a new ambulance, that they're too much on taking trade-ins. You either buy a new one and you sell, if you do sell the other one, you sell it kind of like the town did the skid steer.
Yep.
You'd advertise it in one of their websites and see what you can get for it. But that was the chief's intent.
So there's an arrangement out there with the towns that if you need a second ambulance right now, that you check to see if theirs is available? Is that how?
That's how it was mutual aid, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so say if we were out to my house and a call came to your house, then Shapley or Newfield or Sanford,
You call out and see who has one
and
available.
who's available. That's the way it works now with a fire and rescue. And he did give me a status on the amount of calls. So he gave it to me, we talked about it.
Yep.
And we bring in, Lee, without having the numbers in front of me, somewhere around $100,000 in revenue with the ambulance calls through the insurance companies and stuff.
Yep.
So we do get revenues for having, myself personally, I'd rather it was free for everybody, but I'm in a minority. You know, it get $25 or $50 or whatever, because we're paying these people anyway, but I'm not, that's just my opinion, and I'm definitely outnumbered with that opinion of mine. The other thing is not in this budget, it is a vehicle for the fire chief. And I asked him about that, and he says, well, I don't think with the ambulance that the town would go along with doing that. And I said, well, it's 2 different things. The ambulance is a life safety thing. I mean, there's no argument there. And on the same premise, with a vehicle for the chief, that the town has said, putting a car in their budget for the various departments up here, that it's a liability issue, the way we're doing business, when people are using their cars. And just myself personally, relaying on to the Warrant Finance Committee, to me, it's a liability. It'd also be a liability for the fire chief to be using his own vehicle, according to that rationale.
Isn't it only a liability if you don't tell your insurance company?
That's above my pay grade.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I
can
know,
tell you businesses I worked at, I had mileage reimbursement.
yeah,
But we'll, hopefully,
Yep.
we'll promote this when we go through the budget
Yep.
with the fire department,
Yep.
and have that conversation with the fire chief and the board of selectmen.
It would be nice also,
And
Dennis,
see-
if we knew what the value of that used ambulance was,
Yeah.
and the justification of keeping it versus maintaining the program we have in place now of,
Just getting rid of it.
see what it's worth. I mean, if we can get 100,000 for it or something like
Yeah,
that, I have no idea.
I have no idea either.
We should find out.
But I think what I said tonight
Yep.
is hopefully we'll promote some conversation with the Board of Selectmen, and we can debate the issues.
Yep.
And come up with something that's, kind of works for everybody. And like again, it was a great meeting with Dan and Wayne, and, I should have brought, my wife made beef stew that night, and I should have brought them some, because by the time they left, they were both very hungry.
Dennis, is it $100,000 a year revenue that's paid to the ambulance for
Yeah,
services?
yeah,
So that doesn't-
roughly that,
That
Joe.
doesn't include any of the money that we pay for the attendants, the people.
Oh, no,
No.
this is just a revenue that the town collects through that collection agency, I forget what the name of it is.
Did they ever say on mutual aid, do they get reimbursed and then they get paid?
It all depends on the mutual aid. If Shapley, for example, I'll just use Shapley as an example. If they get a call in Shapley and Shapley's ambulance is sitting there and nobody responds, so Acton has to respond, that's different than Shapley's ambulance being out somewhere. And then they need another ambulance in Shapley, and then Acton would go, and there definitely would not be a fee.
So are you drawing a line between the person that's receiving the ambulance service having insurance, paying to Acton or to Chaplain or whoever?
If Acton does a call, Acton
Yeah.
receives the financial reimbursement.
But I would assume that the cross-utilization of vehicles is relatively few.
Right, 100%.
I mean,
It's like a fire,
It's,
you know what I mean? If one town might be able to deal with a fire,
yep,
but you might have 7 towns there,
yeah,
you know, depending on,
right. Yes.
Yeah, whatever circumstances there are.
Yeah.
you know, whatever the circumstances are, but the fire department isn't any different than any other department, obviously.
If
The cost of operations, just like in our personal lives, gone up, and theirs is the same thing.
If they get a second ambulance, does that mean two more EMTs?
Not at this point, Joe.
Okay. So what are they gonna do? You got 2 ambulances and you got two EMTs, a pair of them. Do you take one ambulance, you take them both, or what?
That's something you'd have to ask the chief, I don't know.
Is there room in the barracks over there for the ambulance?
And again, we didn't talk about that.
Well, no, I mean.
But we did talk
I think it's
about,
important, you know.
no, you're 100%, but we did talk about, just like anything, whether it's a school, or whether it was years ago with the town hall, or transfer station, or whatever. We are getting to the point where, under our capital improvement, we might be looking at an extra bay or 2 bays added onto the building, just because that's just the way things work as time goes on, you know what I mean? You outgrow everything, you know what I mean?
So are the number of calls warranting 2 ambulances?
It's warranting 2 ambulances. It's warranting a new ambulance, because the maintenance on this is getting more expensive.
Right.
And the only thing about the second ambulance is, availability to a second ambulance in an emergency. If we say, for example, yes, we wanna get this new ambulance, but as Lee said, it might be in our best interest to sell that other ambulance, we're just gonna keep doing business like we've been doing it. You know, it's like having a second fire truck. You can have one fire truck and get by, but if you have a second one, the response is gonna be better.
But you do need staff to drive those.
Well, what they do over there, Lori, is most of the people that are there are per diem.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So when they need somebody, the alarm goes out, then people go there, and then they get paid per diem for whatever time
That makes
they
sense.
work.
Okay.
The other thing that was pretty
And you're out 2 more years before it would be
Before you even
delivered.
get it.
Yeah, so you've got another couple of years worth of maintenance on
Yeah,
it.
You know what I mean, which, he just
That's a long
had a,
lead time.
big maintenance cost on the suspension on the thing that
How
let
old
go.
is it?
I think it's 10 or 12.
10 or 12? How many miles?
I did ask that. The other thing that, I mean, you look at the fire department, and then there's no doubt, when we started to go to full-time employees, when the town made that decision, we knew all this, whether it's the amount of employees we have or whatever, I mean, that's just the way it works, from totally volunteer to people starting getting paid, then we want somebody there 24 hours a day. But the very hard thing with this fire department, and Wayne talked quite a bit about this, is the people that you can get to work in the fire department. And there's a few reasons, but as far as I'm concerned, from what I've read and what he explained to me, the biggest problem with the fire department is their training and their licenses. There is, I can't imagine who it would be that has to go through the amount of training that firemen and the EMTs have to go through to maintain their licenses. And I'm gonna use Wayne for a perfect example. Here's a guy that's top notch. Top notch, there's just no doubt about it. He's been over that fire department since he was a kid. In the junior fire department, he went to school. When he got out of high school, he went to school for fire and rescue there and got all this stuff. And hundreds of hours a year in training to maintain their licenses, and with the state and the federal government has changed the requirements so much. It's quite a taking if you're gonna do something like that. And we do have trouble keeping help. We've had people that's gone to Wakefield, gone to Sanford, gone to Milton, just because paying benefits is a lot better. So it isn't like, everybody doesn't go to Sanford or Portland, it's a high demand thing, more so than anything in this town. And I kinda feel bad quite often. I've had 2 grandchildren in the fire EMT program, and just in high school. Vocational does a 2-year program. And the amount of training they have to do besides their schoolwork, I mean, it's really quite a commitment to all of these people. And I'm not saying we gotta pay them all $100 an hour, but we need to, I think, really look at what's going on there.
and do we have permanent staff there?
Yes, we have 24-hour, 7-day-a-week coverage. He works it out. Somehow that part I don't know, but we have coverage here all the time. And I'm sure it's quite a juggle. I know sometimes he has to fill in, because they can't get somebody, so he'll have to fill in for a 12-hour shift or something, you know, above and beyond his regular job in Sanford. They make it work. And historically, the fire and rescue has been nothing but a great bunch of people. And I remember years ago when I worked at the school, O.P. Smith wanted me and Ted Kryzak to do some training in case there was a fire at school, so we could go in the fire and learn what to do or whatever. And we went down to Camp Nutter one night, and back then they used to fill the camp full of smoke, and you'd dress all up, and you'd have to go in there and bring out the dummy, which they wanted to use me, but they didn't, because I didn't really get it. And Ted and I didn't wanna swap against each other, but I made up my mind then that, I volunteered thousands of hours in this town. But that job, not for me. I
It's
tell
not
you
for
right now.
older people either.
They're really,
It's a
Exclusive
specific
group.
mentality.
they really are. You
My
ever
brother's
notice,
a fire.
just, no, I'll talk forever, so you have to shut me up, listen. But you ever notice on TV, when a fire chief is talking, whether it's out in California or here, the language is all the same. The subject might be different, but the terminology and all that, they all use the same terminology. You know, it's quite an organization, and I have nothing but respect for those people over there. Like I said, I wanna thank Wayne and Dan for putting up with me, because what I did was just what I'm doing tonight. I just keep rambling on and on and on. And,
I can say from my neighbor using the ambulance service, the EMTs were excellent, so.
Yeah,
And talk about a specialization and skill set, right?
they're top notch.
Pretty top notch.
And even volunteers, my father was a volunteer fireman, and he had to go to school and do all of that, and, the respect and the admiration I have for the, gentlemen and the ladies that work there is phenomenal, because, you know, I've watched my father come home after losing one of his friends, in a fire, you know, going in to get someone out, and,
Mhm.
My oldest granddaughter doesn't do it anymore because of her death.
yeah.
It was just too much, and it takes a special person.
So the,
Absolutely.
you know, making sure that those guys are safe.
And that is another part that I did forget. And this is with, looking at some equipment, like the, what they call it, scuba.
The scuba, yeah, they're the air packs.
They gotta obviously keep rotating so that they don't get like we got a few years ago, and all of a sudden they needed 20 of them.
Yeah.
And that was a big hit, so we're doing that. And another thing that he mentioned was the extraction machine they have is getting pretty sad. It doesn't work like it did. And
For automobile accidents?
yeah,
They use that a lot, enough to
yep,
cause it to
yep.
wear and tear. Wow.
And we've had it quite a while, you know what I mean? And I'm not so sure it's in this budget this year, but he did mention that we're gonna be looking at replacing that too. But that might have been next year, I don't remember.
Last year that we talked, I was liaison last year, and we talked about the, you know, the annual expense for the scuba, because rather than, you know.
And the other good thing about the
So they don't all
the fire
expire.
department, and if any of you want this, you can have Leslie get it for you. The fire department has a plan, a future plan, just like the school has. And they will tell you, in fact, is this ambulance, it was probably in this plan 5 years ago, for this year, or next year, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And the same thing with a new fire truck that we're looking at soon. And that's gone from, what did we pay, 600,000 for the last one? And the exact same truck today is 1.1 million. Exact same truck. And that's something else that I believe as a town, we really need to start looking at ordering, especially with the catastrophes for out in California. I'm not so sure how easy it's gonna be with the feds involved for us to get a new fire truck, because the last time it took us, what, 3 years, 4 years, something like that to get it. So I think that's something that, it's not my place, but I think it's something that you really need to look at what their capital improvement plan is and say, this is what we need to do. Thank you, Leslie.
Okay. I'll go ahead and ask to have a capital improvement plan sent to us, just so we all can see it. I think it's important for us to see.
And they've had one forever, just like the school, you know, it's.
All right, and moving on to the roads. I sat down and met with Will and David on the roads, and went over a few things. The major thing that is possibly going to be changing is bidding out the winter plowing. Will is having a lot of difficulty getting people who will plow during the winter, because, well, and of course, this year we've had no snow, they're not making money, no one's happy. So he's been putting together some figures as far as what it would take to, for an average per mile. And the rough figures that he got, and David agreed with this too, is about 6,500 per mile. We have 52 miles of town roads, so that would be a budget of about 338,000 approximately, which would put the wintertime budget up about 100,000.
Huh.
Does that include sand?
That
Salt?
includes, they would be
Yeah.
doing the sand and the salt too,
Would
yes.
do that,
Yes,
it's not just plowing.
not just plowing, it's sand and salt too,
Okay. But this is just a winter maintenance.
yes. Okay. Summer maintenance, he was looking at $100,000 per side. And he had two special projects, one on Hawk Road, which was about 39,000, and then another one on Lebanon Road, which is about approximately 177,000. And then we'll all be getting information on exactly what that entails.
Those are special projects.
Those are special projects, yes. So I'm assuming that with the special projects, they'll be like the other ones where he has 2 years to finish them. I know he's been wanting to do Hawk Road for a long time. So he talked about it last year, and that got pulled out of the budget because of budget constraints. He also, the rates are gonna be going up a little bit. Not all of them are going up to state rates. He's trying to keep some of that down. And he also did give us a 5-year plan. So,
You did what?
a 5-year plan, a paving plan.
Paving plan?
Yeah, paving plan. So he detailed that out for District 1 and District 2. If you want me to go over that now, I can, otherwise we can wait until he presents for the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, I'd like to go over it, Leslie, and the reason why is, and I understand we're not gonna get any answers tonight, but if you go over it, maybe we can come up with some questions that we might move forward, so that when we meet next week, for the roads, I believe it is, that would have those questions in,
Yes.
so that we can get the answers that night.
But he's also doing some revising of the budget.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, so I mean.
I'm not talking about the numbers,
Yeah, this is not cast in stone at this point.
because what you just explained, what they're gonna do for special projects, as far as the dollar amount, that's way down from last year,
Yeah, absolutely.
way down.
And I think the reason that he's not doing as many special projects is because of the additional increase that's gonna happen with the winter budget if it goes out to bid. So, I don't know, I'm guessing on that.
I'm just,
Yeah.
I would like to know what the difference is in the miles of road in Acton and Shapley.
Did he?
Because Shapley's a similar town, and they had put their stuff out to bid. And, you know,
I may have.
So that goes out to bid per mile.
yes.
Plus,
Rick?
And their budget over there for winter maintenance
Yeah.
for plowing and sanding is around 460,000.
Is it really? Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna see if I
But does
have.
that include the sand, the salt, the putting it up?
no,
Purchase it?
and this wouldn't either.
So, I mean, there's a lot.
No, their sand and salt is separate over there.
Like a lot
Town
of things.
furnishes the sand and salt.
There's a lot of things added on in that aren't necessarily.
So the 465,000 I'm talking about, plus the cost of the sand and salt.
All right, I can tell you right now, Shapley rates, the plowing rates are 5,600 per mile, not including salt and sand.
So I'm just telling you what they budgeted on the warrant for March,
Yeah.
465,000.
Leslie, do you think it would be a good use of our time to go through that, or would, another option would be to hand out the information you have us look at it and get back to you with questions?
I don't have
If you can
co-
add
yeah.
to it,
I mean, I don't have copies of
Especially
it,
if it's
it's
gonna
just
get
like,
changed.
it's like, you know, scribbles here.
I mean,
I mean, if you
whatever-
wanna look at it, you
Just
know,
read out his
just,
5-year plan on the different projects he's looking at.
all right, for the paving projects?
Yeah.
Okay. For District 1, he has 5 of them. Number 1 is Hawk Road, tear out old hop top base and surface. Number 2 is Goose Pond Road from 16th Street to Shapley Town Line, reclaim and pave or shim and overlay. 3 is Acton Ridge Road from Man Road to Wakefield Town Line, that will reclaim base surface. 4 is Man Road shim and overlay and Dandy Road. 5 is H Road from Seth McCoy Gravel Pit to Anderson Cove Road, reclaim/pave. And then for District 2, there's also 5. Number 1 is Lebanon Road reclaim, Youngs Ridge refinish surface, or finished surface. 2, Hopper Road from Sam Page to Barn Lights, shim and overlay. 3, French Street / Covewood Drive overlay. 4, Sanborn Road reclaim, and then 5 is Godding Road overlay.
That's 5 years.
In 5 years, yeah.
And this is why I wanted you to read it, because Will's not here, we're not gonna have that debate,
Right.
but we need to have a conversation about the 5-year plan.
It also, we had a survey of all the roads that was done this past year. It'll be kinda nice to take that survey and overlay it with these projects.
One thing, Lee, that I've observed
Yes.
is, I don't even remember when it was, doesn't matter, it was last summer maybe. The selectmen said that they wanted the road commissioner and the road committee to sit down and come up with a 5-year plan, going by what the engineer we hired, just like you're talking about, on the order in which we ought to be doing these major projects. And this is no reflection at all on Will, or the Board of Selectmen. But that hasn't been done at all. They have not had that meeting as a group to sit down and develop a 5-year plan. And here we are again. And like I said, it's no criticism of Will whatsoever. But it was never done.
All I'm suggesting is that we just take a look at, put the two together to make sure that, you know, these seem to be the high priorities.
Right. And if that had been done with the road committee, we'd have all that.
You know.
Because there are priority roads that aren't on there from the report I read from the engineer. But anyway, that's a discussion for when Will's around, I guess. That's all I got.
Anyone else have any questions on the roads? Joe?
Not right now.
No, okay. So he'll go over that on, he did contact me to ask if he should be here. I told him I didn't think.
No, I
didn't think it was
No, I
necessary.
just want some of this information you got, is no different than what we talked about the fire department, you
Right.
know what I mean? If you have anything,
Yeah,
forward it, unless we go, and gives us something to think about before we meet with them, that's all.
That's what I do. If you handed that out, I would put it with the survey and then I would.
did you wanna look at this now, Lee?
If you have an extra copy,
I
I'll take
don't
it.
have an extra copy, but I can,
I can take a picture of it after the meeting.
okay,
And
sounds, yeah, all right.
Do you want me in that picture? Just wondering. I love your honesty, Lee. We're gonna get along just fine.
Somewhere in my files, I have the survey, and I'll just take a look at it before the next meeting, that's all.
I appreciate it.
Simple as that.
Okay, review of school budget. Alright. Anyone have any thoughts on the school budget?
For anybody that was there, watched, at the end of the school budget, they went in great detail, last time on, maintenance and support staff operations, and it was a good conversation. I asked quite a few questions about explanations and some breakdowns I wanted, which we'll have at our next meeting, with them. But the other thing I addressed was, it was, said by the town hall that, we do not scrutinize the school budget like we do the town side of their budgets, that it's completely different. And we had a few conversations about that, and I said, well, I'll bring it up at our next meeting. If we're not treating all the departments equal, we'll have the conversation at our meeting and see what people think. I don't, myself personally, there's nobody that, or any department that I know of that I don't ask quite a few questions about. And one thing that was brought up, an example, because I told me, I don't understand. If you're doing something and you're doing what you think is right, if somebody says you're doing it wrong, they need to tell you what you did wrong. Otherwise, you're gonna think you're still doing it right. You know, if they don't agree with it. And one example that one gave was the insurance. Nothing was said about the school's insurance and the town's insurance, and it was really scrutinized. I said, well, we haven't got to that part yet. And then they said, no, last year. I said, well, I wasn't on the committee last year, so I don't know. But you need to scrutinize everybody the same. And the reason why I brought it up at the school committee was because it was about the school committee. You know what I mean? And I just didn't want them to watch this meeting and say, geez, I wish I'd known they were gonna talk about the school, we would have been there. You know what I mean? And so I just bring that out and see what people think, and if we should do things different. I don't know.
Well, at the end of last year, Leslie asked for our thoughts on how the process went last year, and I wrote her a memo and regarding it, and a lot of it is my lack of knowledge of the school's budgeting process, where they get their revenues from, how they match those revenues to specific line items, so that how much is actually impacting the taxpayers of Acton versus regulatory requirements
Right.
that we have no control over and are match funded by either state or federal funds. I have no clue. So and I also don't know how to measure the performance of the school. John mentioned at our first meeting, and I didn't make the last meeting, but at the first meeting that they increased their teachers to lower their student-teacher ratios. And then also during the board meeting of that meeting, he talked about the proficiency ratings.
Yep.
And that there was a gap there, and things don't come up quickly over time. But in my memo to Leslie, I had requested that the school board provide us, or the school provide us the school metrics and the trends that would help us understand how the budget is being put together. And this would include class sizes, student-teacher ratios, administrative cost per student, support staff metrics, cost per student, student performance versus peers, and any other metrics the schools may use to assess their efficiency and performance to the state and federal
Yeah,
guidelines for performance.
yeah,
And it's not that I'm not gonna become a professional teacher,
right,
but I have no idea how well the school is doing. Everyone loves the school, and I think it's great, but I don't know if the school is performing to state standards, above state standards. What is our cost per student to provide this service?
yeah,
And if we're getting a product, I have to use that word, a
Sure.
product, a student that actually is outperforming state standards and our cost per student is higher than the state, I can rationalize easier in my mind, this is a good investment in our future. If, on the other hand, we spend more money with our students and the end result is that we're not even to the standards of the state
right.
or
We're doing something
nationally,
wrong.
then why is that happening?
Yeah,
And how do we address it?
yeah,
And I'm not an educator, and I'm not gonna be able to give you the answers,
right,
but I have no measurements
right,
to look at. And the other thing that kind of ties to this is going back to, they get different funding sources. It's not a one-to-one correlation. You increase the expense, our taxes go up.
yeah,
It doesn't work that way. You've got state and you've got federal
yeah.
contributions coming in.
And they change every year.
And they change every year. So when we're looking at their budget process, I have no idea what the impact is to the taxpayers of Acton.
Yeah,
And
this
that's
year-
frustrating to me.
This year, it's even more difficult because they're in contract negotiations, so we don't know what those figures are gonna be yet.
And that brings up a whole nother line. If you look at the amount of fixed costs that you're creating when you negotiate those contracts, the real input from, if you want input from Warrant Finance, has to take place in understanding the guidelines that they're going in to negotiate these contracts with, and how well they do in representing the taxpayers in these negotiations.
And that's a question.
And I have no idea.
right,
I don't know who's doing the negotiating. They have a negotiating team of
right,
their board, but these are lay people going up against the unions.
yeah,
And I never negotiated against unions. But my gut tells me you need to have a professional person who knows the territory and understands the general criteria that teachers' unions and support unions are expecting and how to negotiate back against that. And you don't do that with lay people.
Yeah.
We have some wonderful board members at the school, but I don't know what their qualifications are to
Right.
represent us doing that stuff.
I mean, I've been involved with labor negotiations because I belong to a union. And the negotiations tend to get very ugly.
You don't deal with chocolate chip cookies at those?
Yeah, yeah.
well, I think
Yeah,
every
my
school
con-
has that issue.
But I'm sure
Every
they
school
do.
department, it's the same thing. You got representatives from the school committee that's negotiating with, like you say, the unions.
Yeah. So my point, Dennis, is this. We go through and we look at the line items, and the line items, they're justified, and
Yeah.
they do a great job identifying why they're going up and what they're doing. We have no idea. We're sitting there nodding our heads, yes, yes, yeah, we understand that and understand that. We don't know what the impact is to the taxpayers until the very end, and you put all the pieces together. We don't know what their objectives are going into it on trying to control the costs. I don't know. I've asked,
Right.
you know, this doesn't even address the issue of coming up with an operating plan for the year and saying, okay, what are you trying to do? Where you give us bullet points saying, okay, this year, they talked, I did watch part of the meeting you had, and they talked about the servers. and they talked about upgrading, some
Yeah,
other.
the firewall.
The firewall stuff.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting dialogue about safety issues,
Yeah.
you know, with outside
Yeah.
speakers and all that, which, you know, was a world that, thank God, I didn't have to live in when I was in elementary
I
school.
agree.
We had to hide under the chairs. We were
Yeah.
worried about a nuclear bomb going on.
But the chair,
I don't think it would help much.
the chairs were screwed to
Talk,
this
talk
wall.
about theater.
But my point is,
No, I understand what you're saying.
I don't know what I'm looking at and how to respond to what we're seeing.
So what I would do, Lee,
Yeah.
if it was me,
If it was you. I've talked with John.
and what do you have for the
He's
answers?
a great guy. I love him. He's a wonderful man.
Did he give you the answers, though? I mean, what you're.
Well, I didn't think it was my position as, I was an alternate last year.
Yeah.
I gave my thoughts. And I go in this year and I get this, I feel like I'm in the same
So
position.
you gave him your thoughts last year,
I gave him a lesson.
right? And I think for your satisfaction, this is just my experience.
Yep.
For your satisfaction, I would, and I'm not trying to bypass Leslie, but I would call up John, make an appointment with him, and I know he'll be more than willing to sit down with you and talk about these things. And maybe can't give you all the answers,
I bet they
Off the top
have
of
these
his head.
statistics. They got-
but I don't know, like with the state standards on our
Yeah.
students, I know there's just two basic things they do that on. One is math and one is on science.
In English.
We don't,
Proficiency in language.
Were you,
but what I'm saying is that the tests that they just presented this year
Yeah.
on what was it, science, they was talking
Oh, that
about.
was science too, yeah.
And they did that, and they showed the progression, where we were here
Yep.
and where we were there, and this is where we are with the state. And one of the problems I know this school deals with, and all schools all throughout the state deal with, is the state and their incompetence. Keep changing the tests and the way they score the tests. And we're not gonna do this type of test anymore, we're gonna move to this program instead. So you don't have 3 years data that you can compare to a 4 years data.
It keeps changing.
It keeps
Yeah,
changing,
it makes it tough.
so it makes it hard to say over the last 5 years, this is how we've progressed, because the way they receive the data is changed.
Right.
So what you was looking at yesterday, that you can't even match it up with anything in front of you.
And I have, my daughter's a teacher, my son-in-law is a teacher, and I understand the frustrations they all deal with.
Sure.
And I'm not trying to stir the pot more than, I'm trying to understand how we can contribute to the process of putting a budget together.
I would really encourage you to call
I will
John,
do that.
and, I don't know what days he's working or whatever, but I know he'll always make time.
I really like him a lot.
No, he's a great guy, and he,
Fortunate to have him.
yeah, one more year.
when I started tracking what the school was doing, what I did is I went to the state site and looked at where we ranked throughout the rest of the schools, and we were damn close to the bottom.
But that's true, you look on the website from the state.
Yeah,
Get some
and,
I was looking today, I
and
couldn't
then, and
find
then I
it.
think shortly after that, John was hired and started implementing some changes.
Changes.
We're now in the, right around, I think, just above the middle. So we've made a lot of progress in the years he's been with us. Unfortunately, he's close to retirement, so we'll be losing that.
He is a wonderful fit, I'm telling you, his personality is great, he's very articulate, we're lucky to have him. And I think he's found a replacement that's gonna work out well for us.
Were you at the
Mr.
first
Board, yeah.
meeting when they had the PowerPoint
Yes.
presentation?
Yep.
I've asked John to send that to me, so I've got to forward it to everybody, so I have that information. So I'll be sending that all to you, so, I mean, that pie chart was really helpful.
And I know-
it did go through, where we stood statewide, and how a lot of the other schools were below us, but where we didn't meet state standards at certain levels.
And I know that if John can put up with a meeting with me, he'd probably love to have a meeting with you. And I apologize to the school committee, because I never imagined this talk about the school was gonna be this long tonight, but
Yeah.
we really didn't.
Well,
We talked about the Warrant Finance Committee issues.
I will be happy to go over this with you, if that's what you like.
I would love for you to do it.
Okay, I'll do that.
So, anyway, okay.
Sorry.
No, no worries. On to review of the general government budget. I'm having a lot of difficulty understanding this budget because I don't understand how we can add 3.5% to 4% to salaries, add in a $35,000 vehicle, and still reduce the budget 5.6%. I'm just not seeing, the figures working, so.
Is it because they took the transfer station?
That wasn't,
Jennifer said that wasn't part of it.
it wasn't part of it. I looked at last year's budget, the insurance on the transfer station was in the transfer station's budget. So,
What about the actual increase in health insurance? Shouldn't that be considered as part of the benefit package in the sense?
oh, it is,
No, I realize that. but-
absolutely,
but if-
it's
if
part of
you-
the compensation
If
package,
you go up
yes.
7-8% on that,
Oh,
and you go up another, I guess it'd be 4.5 with that state thing there. I mean, it's quite a bit of increase year to year, and it's starting to really add up overall.
Yeah, I mean, the figures just aren't working, for me, and, I don't know how that happens, I just, and I'm
I'm
pretty
not
good
sure
with
I'm following
numbers, and
what
I
you're
can't,
saying.
what's that?
I'm not sure I'm following what you're saying.
Well, we've given a 3.5% increase in wages
No?
to the, people who work in the town hall.
Mhm.
We've also added a $35,000 vehicle in the general government budget. But the bottom line says that the budget's down 0.6%. And I don't see how that,
What was taken out.
yeah, what was
that
taken, what was
to bring
taken
that
out
down.
to make it, to
Right.
reduce it at that level? I
To
can't,
reduce the budget from last year, what was taken out.
You don't think that the system is calculating the numbers right?
I don't know.
So what she's saying is my understanding is, you have these increases.
Increases.
So.
Where's the
and plus you're-
offset for the
You're putting in a $35,000 vehicle. How did the budget go down?
Do you have the latest numbers you're looking at?
Yeah, I have, yeah, from 113.
Yeah.
I've got the transfer station stuff in here. I don't, think I have it here somewhere. 113, I got a 117.
On the municipal one there.
Yeah, you should have two, one from January 8th and one from the 13th.
Which one are you looking at, the 8th?
No, I'm looking at the 13th. The one in the 8th, I think, went up a little bit.
Got the 8 now. 13.
Yeah, the one on the 8th, it
That's
said
the
it
one
was
we're looking at
a,
right now.
increase of 4.2%.
That's what I thought it was, I'm not sure. This
But
other
then-
one is dated the 13th,
Yes,
okay?
so, I mean, it just, I'm just not seeing where,
When you compare the 8th went up about 4%, and the other one went down about what, 3%?
0.6.
0.6.
0.6.
Okay, so there's about a 4% gap.
Yeah, that,
When you look at them department by department, can you see what changed? Because you ought to be able to just look,
Well, that's,
do a comparison of the two sheets, and it ought to be able to tell you what's going on there. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
no, I know, yeah.
If you want to give it to me, I could do it in 2 seconds. It's up to you. By the way,
Okay,
the
there was a-
3.5% increase,
I mean, no, that's not set in stone.
no one, you know.
We know that, but, I mean, we're just working with the figures that
And
we
the
have.
vehicle itself would probably be leased, so we're not gonna do a cash outlay for that.
so what,
Because there are gonna be expense savings when we no longer pay mileage, that once we've done the analysis, we believe will confirm it will cover the lease payment.
Will it be, all right, well, I mean,
Do you follow me?
no, it's, I mean, I had questions on the vehicle too, because
Oh,
the 35,000, does that include the insurance, the excise taxes?
Maintenance.
I'm not sure. I'm
Yeah,
not sure
so,
that.
I mean, there's,
If we were to do this, from my perspective, I would want to make sure that the reduction in mileage would cover the cost of a car with lease payments.
so it is revenue neutral.
That's my hope. I'm gonna wait and see what it says.
so Leslie, you have a reduction in building repairs and maintenance of 5,000. You've got the land acquisition in last year's budget that's not there for 45,000. And the contingency hasn't been put into the individual management component of the budget, and there's another $31,000 there. These are all down.
All right, so is there gonna be a contingency for next year, or does that roll over?
I believe the contingency, based on the vote at the last meeting,
Uh-huh.
town meeting, will be carried in a single line. Previously, that was in general government. It's gonna come out of general government, and it's gonna go on its own line.
Okay, so it
In
just
the
moved,
budget.
it just moved.
It just moved, so that would account for some of the difference. I believe there was a reduction also in the accounting fees and salaries,
Yeah,
because we lowered the costs associated with Mark Roy's services. And I believe the treasurer budget lowered as well, because it ended up coming in lower than what was previously budgeted. So there's lots of puts and takes. I'm sorry, I haven't a senior moment. Has this committee met yet with the selectmen on general government?
yes.
And did these questions come up then?
Some of them did, but we had just gotten a new set of figures, like the 13th, we had
I
just
see.
gotten,
It was
so,
part of the fluid process.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we
You
didn't have
hadn't
a chance
finalized anything.
Okay.
we didn't have a chance to really look at stuff in advance, really, when we had that meeting, so it was kind of like,
I
you
understand.
gotta think
Yeah.
about it as
Yeah.
they're presenting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what we're doing now is just looking, we've had time to look at it and asking questions.
This seems relatively simple to figure out the difference between these two. Many of them are the same, some of them are different,
Yeah,
but you ought to be able to see what lines are different. And if you give us questions about those, we're happy to answer them.
okay,
If you want to handle this again, we can do that too, but maybe we can just handle it by back and forth questions,
yeah,
okay?
yeah,
Whatever
absolutely.
you prefer.
And on the vehicle, Tom, I had asked this at the meeting while you were away.
Okay?
And I had asked if the vehicle would be leased or if it would be purchased, and they indicated that it would be purchased.
I have not heard that. I have been assuming all along that it would be leased, so there was no point in laying out the cash. From my regard, interest rates are high. I would do a lease. And, because I don't think we're gonna put that many miles on it anyways. And it should be budget neutral or maybe close to it. But we need to see that, and I haven't seen the analysis yet. I'm waiting to see that. Once we get it, select board will decide what it wants to do. Maybe they'll take a position that they're gonna buy it. I don't know.
Right.
I'll hold judgment until I see the analysis.
Okay, so
Okay?
I just would like to ask that when that analysis comes out, that you forward it to us.
We certainly will share it with you.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So that way, I mean, because, you know, looking at a $35,000 vehicle, was,
I don't know why we pay for it outright. I don't get it. So, to me, it makes no sense.
cause you know, personally, I'd like to see it revenue neutral,
So would I.
so.
All in favor?
I don't get the, I don't decide that. I'm one of 5 votes, so we'll see what happens, okay?
The other thing within that budget is the maintenance that Lee brought up. It's dropped, what, 5,000? If you look in the expense thing, they've spent no money out of that this year.
And which one?
We
Which one?
spent 6,000.
Out of that one? I must have been looking at the old one.
Which one are you looking at?
Which maintenance budget is that, Dennis?
The town hall's maintenance line.
Oh,
It used to be 25,000, then they dropped it down to 20. And then I think
Do you know what page this is on?
no. Lee was looking at it, he knows.
Building repairs and maintenance,
Yeah,
budget 20,000, spent $6,175.
What page?
It's on the second page.
Second, okay.
Yeah, I just stir things up, I can't, yeah.
Yeah.
and it's proposed at 15. And they spent 6,200 to date.
Yeah.
What's that, through December? Through December.
Yeah.
It must have been,
So, you
Who
know,
knows?
I think
We spent almost 1,200 the year before,
well,
on the 2024 actual.
the 2024 actuals, yeah, are, aren't they 11,766?
Yeah, so approximately 12,000.
Oh, I thought you said 1,200.
No, 12,000.
12,000,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so no, that's, in, you know, with the 15,000, that's in
We lowered
line.
it to 15, so it
Yeah.
kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Could it go to 12? But I don't know, but.
no, that isn't.
Yeah, no, it's just, I'm saying that's in line
Oh, okay.
with what we should be, yeah.
No, that isn't my issue.
What's your issue?
My issue
Must
is
spend more.
that, no, not really,
No?
Lee, but
You want to address the issues? Oh,
that
I'm sorry.
a couple of years ago, we had an assessment done on the building, and I don't know what we've done to make the improvements that were recommended by the firm that we hired to do an assessment. And I think it probably goes back to, like we were talking earlier about the school and the fire department and the road department. And you spoke, Tom, about this earlier, back in October, about a plan for this place. And how we're going to, instead of being reactive about taking care of the place, being proactive with some kind of a plan. And I realized that you never know. The reason why originally it went from 15 to 25 was the maintenance line was 15. And it was changed to 25 so we could do some improvements. For example, when they put the ramp and flowers and granite and all that stuff out here. And then they'd do one side of the town hall each year with a vinyl siding deal. And so it was constantly, and then it didn't get spent, and it ended up going, the price to do the backside of the building was very expensive, and our maintenance couldn't absorb that, and the maintenance line couldn't absorb that cost. But since we've done that, we haven't move forward. You know, with being proactive about the maintenance of this building. At least that's the way I see it. So, to have it to 15, if we're doing maintenance, reactive maintenance, 10,000, 12,000, whatever, that really isn't, you have to do it, but it's not, you're not investing in, it's kind of like your house, you know what I mean? If you gotta paint your house every so often, then you gotta paint your house every so often. But you don't let it go until you gotta replace all your siding. That doesn't make any sense. You're better off to spend a smaller amount of money painting it or redoing your roof. And I just don't see any of that in the last couple of years.
You know, as I, may
Absolutely, yeah.
as I remember that study, I'll be honest with you, I was surprised with the outcome. When I look at the facility, it's very tired looking. You know, there seems to be sags, et cetera, and I was concerned about structural issues in the building. And as I recall, that report came back and said, gee, they really didn't see structural issues.
Yeah.
What they saw was an opportunity to improve the function of the building and the appearance of the building. So, the work that would be done, from what I've seen in that report, really would be about redoing this room to make it a little more aesthetically pleasing. Maybe doing some other upgrades to the renovations of the building. I don't believe there was anything about the outside or the roof or the plumbing or the wiring or the electrical. I don't recall there being anything in there. I can go back and look at it. It's more cosmetic. And there's there are other capital needs of the town, and it's a matter of priority. Do we want to deal with the cosmetic and aesthetic looks of the building? Or do we want to deal with road improvements, an ambulance, whatever it might be? And I think those are decisions that, or feelings that the public has some pretty strong feelings about. And I've been learning about them over the last 2 or 3 years. And I'm not sure there's widespread interest in spending money on cosmetics. That's my sense. I may be wrong, but I don't believe there is. They want to deal with things that we absolutely have to deal with. And from my perspective, that's what I've been trying to focus on, and why nothing has been done, why I haven't proposed anything for the building.
And I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, Tom.
Okay.
I took the report,
No,
read it,
it
interpreted just like you did.
But you were talking about, you got the roof and the siding.
I was just using
Those
that.
are not,
I was
those are
using
not
that for
issues.
example.
The issue is, do we need a new kitchen? Do we want to redo the bathrooms? Do we want to spiff this place up? Which I think, personally, I'd love to do it, but I'm not sure there's a real appetite for that within the town.
I guess that's my issue, Tom, is, I was talking about the outside of the building on it. I was just saying that's how we used to do it, which I'm not saying it's right now. But there's certain things that was in that report, and you just brought it up, like the bathrooms.
Yeah.
They're not handicap accessible.
I agree.
Okay, this is a public building, they should be,
Yeah.
in which we put money forward. It's the same thing with the exits. The exits aren't handicap accessible,
Yeah.
you know? God forbid something happens and somebody's gonna go out this exit here,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they're gonna have a problem.
Yeah.
And same thing with this one.
Yeah.
And this is what I mean about being proactive about certain things. We don't meet the very minimum, the improvements we should be making to this building is to be ADA compliant in this building.
I don't know what the
That's
history
very
is.
minimum.
I don't know what the history is on that, Dennis. My experience is when you're in an old building and you need to make it fully ADH compliant,
Yep.
it is a very expensive proposition. And in some states, it's required to do it. I'm not quite sure what the situation is in Maine.
It is
but
required in Maine.
It's not just the bathrooms or the egress. There's other things that need to be addressed in
I
order to make
appreciate
it
that.
ADA compliant. So, if I don't believe we've ever had a study of this building for ADA compliance.
Well,
I have not seen
I
it.
know the entrance surely doesn't meet, ADA regulations.
That one?
Yeah, definitely not.
Oh.
Coming up that ramp, try it in a wheelchair.
Well, I thought it was put in for that reason, Dennis. I wasn't here
No.
when they did it, but isn't that why they did it?
Why they did that ramp?
Yeah.
No, because you either had a ramp or you had stairs,
I don't know.
and that's the way it was put in.
Well-
What I'm saying is, as a public building, the very least, we should be ADA compliant in this structure.
Well, I'd suggest you bring that to the select board meeting as an issue. It's probably not a topic for here, but if you want to talk about it, you can. But I think if you feel that's a concern, bring it forward to the selectmen.
I mean, a code enforcement knows all that stuff. ADA regulations.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion on the maintenance budget.
I think you're opening up Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can leave it just like it is, and
Well,
then when somebody gets hurt or something like that,
I've dealt with a few old buildings, and one of the things they talk about is elevators.
yeah, but it's the difference between a public building and a private building. Big difference. That school down there is completely ADA compliant. You got how much stuff they had to change since 1957. That's just me talking.
Anyone else have anything on the
Uh,
municipal?
The Recreation Committee canceled their meeting last night, so I didn't go.
Okay.
And with all this me saying about fixing stuff, I also want to tell you, I don't want my taxes to go up.
There you go.
I'm just telling you.
Yeah, that's a common theme I hear,
That's
Dennis,
it.
so.
Tom, do we have a grant writer out
I
there?
guess we're not gonna do any cosmetic work in this building. There you go. Jesus.
But still worth the conversation.
Yeah.
All right.
It's definitely, it's,
Thank you for letting us know about the rec, were you supposed to go over the, budget, or just a,
I
it was just
didn't
a
really
general
meet with
meeting?
anybody. I mentioned something to John, and he can't, but he wasn't, I don't know. I don't think he goes there anymore. I don't know. Just
Okay.
kind of.
I
Well, they haven't had a
seen
meeting
that
for like
budget
3
yet,
months.
Leslie.
I'm sorry?
I haven't seen that budget yet, so I don't know what the status of it is.
Okay, are you the, liaison?
No, but
No?
I would
Okay.
have thought it would have
Yeah.
come through if it was
Okay.
something, but I haven't seen it.
All right. I mislabeled the next, agenda item. It's supposed to be the social services budget, not the miscellaneous. So,
I think myself personally, without going through every one, there's a couple of big ones in there that I don't agree with. And that is the Drainage Lake Association, giving them money. They're asking, I think it was, what, $2,500. And Boss Lake Association.
he's asking for 2. All right, well, does everyone wanna go down line by line, or just ask your questions that you have?
These are all amounts that they ask us for.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not anything that we
Yeah.
proposed.
So the first line is what we approved last year, the second one is what they're
Okay.
asking for this year.
The community action, is that the one that runs the bus?
Yeah.
That takes people,
Which one?
Yes, yeah.
yeah, okay. Is there any increase, reason for it?
you're looking for 3,500 versus 16, I was gonna suggest going to 2,000, or something in between.
Well, I mean, I got Joyce couldn't be here tonight. She sent me an email with a recommendation, what she thought that perhaps we should talk about reducing all of the requests 5.5%, except for the ones that are asking like 500 or less.
Reduce them,
Reduce the, grant 5.5%.
just across the board.
Yeah.
What's her rationale?
The rationale is that we've got almost $100,000 in social services. That was the rationale. It's just a lot of money.
If these organizations weren't providing the services and it fell upon the town to pick up the gap,
Mm-hmm.
these funds would be minimal for the alternative cost
Right, no,
of doing
I mean,
business.
And Lee, I'm
Number
not
one.
saying you're.
And number two, I can tell you, you know, the ones that are related to water quality, when you look at the tax base that this town is supported on, is the waterfront properties,
Mhm.
and the amount of money that the town is contributing to the different organizations that keep that water quality at the levels it's at, and dealing with some of the problems at Bulch Lake, for example, that has milfoil, and they're spending $100,000 trying to keep the milfoil under control. And the introduction of ladder watt into Mousom Lake, and they're just starting to feel the consequences of that. And I can go on and on and on. And the bottom line is,
But you have snails over on Square Pond.
we have snails over there, and we spend a ton of money on getting those out of there, thousands of pounds.
So why isn't Square Pond asking for money?
Because we don't have the issues that they have with invasive plants. We're dealing with the snails.
Well, Great East doesn't have the
I
issue
think
with
they,
invasive plants.
I think they do.
They don't.
They have none?
There's no invasive plants in Great East.
You're very
Because-
fortunate.
I know.
But it's,
For Wilson Pond,
Wilson, I
they
think.
don't have.
they don't, as far as I know, they don't either.
The la-
Lawrence
I
Pond
thought-
don't.
They may have bladder watt now.
But I'm saying, none of the, there's so many lakes that we have, and it's always Great East. Always wants money, and now they want more money than they were getting.
Well, why don't we
And I
have
don't-
Charlie
I don't
Crispy come in
understand
and
it.
talk about it? I mean,
I've read
it's
the
gotta
whole,
be a
I've
reason.
read the whole thing, Lee,
Yeah, okay.
and we get more as taxpayers preserving the lakes through our and Acton, Shapley,
Youth conservation.
youth conservation. Those people do more work to preserve our lakes.
And they're on the
And-
list.
They are on the list.
Yeah.
I think he likes those. That's what he's
I
saying.
do.
Yeah.
And they do a great job.
They do.
And that's why they're doing water tests on Great East Lake too. Well, why are we paying Great East Lake to do water tests if Iowa's already doing water tests? What, Iowa is a huge organization. It goes all the way from, starts at Winnipesaukee. These guys know what they're doing. A lot more than the Lake Association knows what they're doing. I'm not crapping on Lake Association. I'm just saying, these people are full of professional engineers, they know what they're doing. And if they wanted more money, I would say, when you read what they do around these places, great, absolutely great. But if we're gonna give money to a Lake Association, to me, we give it to all of them, but we don't give them to any of them.
I would
False
take
Pond, I agree with you.
if they have invasive plants in there and they're aggressively going after the invasive plants, then we should be providing support for them.
Yep.
I
agree
thought
with you.
Great East had that issue, but if they don't, then,
I just got, a newsletter from Julia that they're saying
They're
that,
clean.
no, they're clean.
And if you look at False Pond, when you read their report, they changed the way they're going after the milfoil. Okay, they hired whether it's a different outfit, professional outfit, whatever. They went a different outfit this year dealing with it, and they doubled the amount of milfoil they took out of False Pond from any previous year. So, I don't remember what the additional cost was, but what you're saying is, I agree with you. False Pond, it's a problem.
you know, they're dealing with 2 state regulations and they can.
And Saco River Corridor,
And Saco River, yeah.
and they're nothing but a nuisance.
Dennis, which ones do you have a concern with? I'm not quite,
Is
I
it
can't
just
focus on
Great
it.
East?
Just Great East.
Is that the Acton Wakefield watershed?
No,
line?
no, Great,
No, that was
Great
Lake-
East Improvement,
Yes.
Lake Improvement, so
Yeah.
$2,500?
yeah,
Okay.
I must have missed that one.
I don't see the,
They didn't provide anything on what they want the money for?
oh, yeah, whole bunch of stuff.
Didn't make sense?
If you want the money, you present all that stuff, and you can put out all the information you want and the reasons why. Anybody that's a good salesman or a politician can do that. But what they're doing at Great East isn't any different than what they're doing at Mousom Lake. With the boat inspections and water quality tests, I mean, Acton Shapley has taken Mousom Lake to an endangered lake with all the work that the Lake Association has done, and Acton Shapley Watershed Alliance, and the improvements they made on this lake is unbelievable. And they've never asked the town for any money for help. The Lake Association hasn't,
Oh, the Lake Association, yes.
okay?
But certainly,
There's certain responsibilities, and I'm not telling you guys anything, you guys live there, but you know yourself, because you accept it. There's certain responsibilities, whether living on a lake, there is a lake, somebody that owns property on the lake, there's a certain responsibility to maintain that lake,
sure,
and you all do it.
yeah.
And if Square Pond asks for money, and Wilson Pond, and Horns Pond, and whatever, Loon Pond, but it's always Great East Lake. And Waltz Pond has come with an issue, they've had an issue, it started up on the New Hampshire end, and it worked its way down the lake. And you look at Saco River Corridor, that's asking for money, where did they spend all their money this last year? Over in Gorham. They didn't spend any money trying to clean up Waltz Pond. The people that do the work, which are the landowners and these two associations is, and the Balls Pond doesn't have that association. They don't have an association like how our Acton Shapley Watershed Alliance. Balls Pond doesn't have that group,
I thought they did.
no. They have a lake association.
They're both, they get support, I thought from, which one?
I thought the Bowdens were involved in that.
They are,
Who?
The Bowdens?
The vote?
not the Bowdens,
Yeah.
Bowdens, I don't know what that
yeah,
is.
Denise.
Denise Bowden and her husband, I'm sorry, Blake.
Yeah.
I was involved in,
Huh?
Oh,
Are
Lake.
involved in Balch Lake. I don't know if it's a formal lake association, but
I
they are
think it
certainly
is.
You're
involved.
talking about the Acton Wakefield Watershed Alliance.
Yeah.
right, that's who takes
Yes,
care of
that's-
Square and,
No, what?
and.
No, Acton Shapley Youth Conservation does Square and Mousom.
Whatever it's called there.
Yeah.
And then,
AWOD
Act-
does,
Acton
Horn,
Wakefield.
Wilson, Great East.
No, they don't listen.
They do Balch Lake.
I don't know if AWOD does or not.
I've never heard of them doing it.
I think, I think that, well, I can double check it, but I
I
thought,
think John Vandeloff told me at one point that they, if someone from Wilson Lake contacts them for help, they'll go there.
That's fine, I just don't see it with Balls. Balls Pond doesn't have, we're not spending $25,000 a year, paying it to any organization to preserve Balls Lake. Or 20,000, whatever.
Balch Lake's got one of the worst situations in
Yeah,
our
but
area.
Balch Lake is also, the real truth about it is, it's downstream of Blue Lake. Blue Lake was the problem to begin with.
Balch Lake is looking for $2,000.
That's what Baloo
No, I
started.
appreciate that, Tom.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, they don't have an organization like AWA that works with Square and Mousom. Or they don't have, for Acton Shapley, whatever your youth corps. And the same thing over here, they don't have the same And it's, one of the worst lakes we got.
Would you like, do you mind if I make a suggestion?
No, go
If you
ahead.
have concerns about any of those lines, I'd invite them in. Invite the people from Balch who requested the money, and the people from Grady's, let them explain what, because I'm not sure if there's a clear understanding of exactly what it is they want this money for. So ask them to come in for 15 minutes and explain it, and then you'll be in a position of knowing.
Oh, I agree with what Lee said about balls,
I have
but
the,
Grady's, I just,
I have the
And
letter
You probably
from-
know what's going on.
I have the
Grady.
letter from Grady that's in here. They are, Lee, this is where I saw that we're still free of invasive plants.
Okay.
So it says, to date, Grady's Lake is still free of invasive aquatic plant infestation. And they run the Lake Host program. The paid and volunteer staff have performed over 39,000 courtesy boat inspections, resulting in the removal of over 200 plant fragments.
I gotta tell you, as someone who lives on a lake, that is one of the most important functions we can do,
Absolutely.
inspecting boats. And to me, that is something that's very valuable to the town.
And
Because
if
it
you're,
keeps
you're
us
looking at
scratched.
our short season, and they've done almost 40,000 inspections.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
Yeah, it
inspections.
is. Yeah, so,
With 200 plant fragments and 15 which were identified as invasive species.
yeah.
All right, and the launch is staffed 7 days a week between Memorial Day and Labor Day, and made 2 saves on previously unstaffed shifts.
Okay.
Does Balch Lake have inspections?
I don't know.
I don't.
They don't have a public launch,
I don't think they do.
there's a different
They're-
situation there.
I knew perhaps like 7, 10 years ago that they had a problem.
it's
And-
been a problem for a long time. They've been
Well,
fighting.
no, but because the water flows from Baloo Lake, it was really bad, into Balch.
No, I appreciate that, but it's been there quite a while.
Yes, on the road
Problem.
down a little opposite. Which it goes, it bypasses Great East and whatever. So I think you're gonna see Balch Lake only get worse. Another thing is, that it's only a small part of Acton that actually abuts Balch Lake.
Huh?
If you go up there, right, where Frank Jamali lived, and then go around down
Yeah.
toward, what's it, Wyman Point? I mean, it's not a lot, but it's enough to, whatever.
No, Three Ponds don't ask for any money.
Right, well, yeah, that's true.
Acting board is them.
But if you look at the number of properties on Great East in Acton, they contribute a great deal of money to our tax base.
All
That-
And
that's
if
irrelevant.
something happened, if,
But nothing's
Great
gonna
East-
happen, Leslie.
no, but if we got an invasive, plants in Great East, what happens to your tax base eventually?
Well, what happens if nobody's down the boat ramp to do the inspection?
But Julia is doing the boat inspections.
They're not there all the time.
I just read you what they staff. 7 days a week, from Memorial Day to, where is it?
Okay, how about before Memorial Day? The state people that bring their stuff can still have the same stuff in it.
Well, that's true. That's true,
And what
but
they're doing is preventive maintenance, and I appreciate what they're doing. And I'm not saying I don't appreciate it, but how many boat inspections does, Mountain Lake people, how many inspections do they do?
I have no idea.
I bet it's just
around
as many.
15,000. I think they're doing around 15, and Square's doing around 8.
So Great East is doing a lot more.
Well, they have more traffic too.
Yeah,
Look, Look, I know I live on a lake, so I get a little biased. These lake associations and the property owners in these lakes are doing a great job trying to preserve the waterfront. And so I think that's probably true of all the lakes. But I would agree with Lee, it's like an industrial complex that a town might have. They do things to support that industrial complex, because it produces tax revenue. They give them tax breaks, etc. These lake associations aren't asking for that. They're basically asking for a little modest sum to help them beyond what they can otherwise generate themselves. They do fundraisers, they're looking for contributions from property owners. They do a lot on their own. How many people are doing the snail? Is it 100, 50?
Between 80 and 100.
Yeah, 80, 100 people are volunteering picking snails out of the water at Square Pond. It's amazing, and that stuff goes on
Thousands
in
of
all the
pounds.
lakes. And so they're just, I think there are just some things they're looking for a little support on, that in the overall scheme of things, from my perspective, is really shortchanged. $2,000, $2,500, that's not a lot of money.
And
So
if you don't address the issue with invasive plants coming into the lake, then it does affect property values, and when it affects property values, it will affect your tax base.
Then we should do it for all the lakes.
It'll
But if
hurt.
they don't,
What's
if
the
they don't
difference?
ask,
What's the difference between Grady's and Wilson Pond? There isn't any.
they're not
If you're
asking.
protecting,
Well, that part I don't have an answer for.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay?
it's,
But,
why doesn't Square Pond ask?
well, we feel that we're handling it on our own. Right now, if we have an invasive plant in our budget,
they'll be asking.
we'll be asking for help, I'll
They'll be
guarantee it.
asking.
I mean, you guys did ask when we had to fix the dam,
Well, that's another issue.
and that was fine, I had no,
Yeah, but if an invasive plant comes in, we have a budget that focuses on things like supporting ASYCC's efforts on doing the inspections. We have a budget that's based on doing water quality testing. We have a budget that's based on supporting the snail snatches and doing the harvesting of the snails. But we don't have a budget that would reflect addressing an invasive plant infestation into the lake.
do you have a
And-
weed watcher, program?
We have invasive plant patrols. We have people around the lake.
We call it a weed
file
watcher,
all
yeah.
our reports with Lake Stewards of Maine, like all the other lakes do.
Yeah,
And that's all volunteer work,
they do boat inspections down there,
yes.
so somebody said,
ASYCC does them, and then some,
That's what I thought.
and then they're
That's what I thought.
supported by some volunteers. And tomorrow morning, I'm having breakfast with the ASYCC because they're looking for more money.
yeah.
So, that's-
No, I
That's what we
appreciate it,
do.
I'm not,
I hear.
don't get me wrong about the lakes, I mean,
Yeah. I haven't, to be honest with you, I didn't get down as far, I didn't get to Great East's request. That one caught me off guard. I assumed they were in there because of invasive plants, but.
but it doesn't say why they want more money.
We didn't give them any last year.
Right, but the last time they requested was 2,000. And now they want
I
2,500.
don't know, I didn't get that far into it. It's 236 pages, I missed that one.
inflation.
No, I don't know, last year the selectmen just cut it out, right?
I don't have, I have an issue with going in and doing a across-the-board cut.
Yeah, all right, well, I
Personally.
mean, that was something that Joyce said that, she, wanted me to throw out there for her, for her to,
I'm
to see
opposed
what
to
we
it if
thought,
that mean-
what we thought about
If you
that.
want my vote, I'm opposed to
Yeah.
that.
I'm opposed to it.
Anybody didn't give us any information on their request, I think we should vote no on also.
Actually,
I'm not.
I think many of them were zeroed out.
yes, they were zeroed out, if you look at the
They
sheet.
didn't put it in a request, they got eliminated.
Yeah, like, Red Cross didn't send anything, so they have not, they're zero.
Yeah.
Same with Life Flight, we got nothing from them.
I was trying to look at different criteria under which we would support some of these organizations, and I struggled on a couple of them. If there's direct services being provided,
Right.
I didn't have an issue. If there were what I call indirect, I served on the board of a YMCA before, and I don't recall us ever reaching out to the broader community for municipal support for senior programs that we used to conduct. I don't know why that's in there, but that's just me.
And there's some organizations that did list the dollar amount of services they provide in it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
Astronomical compared to what they were asking.
exactly, I don't have a problem with that, because if we had to pick up the tab on that, it would be a lot more expensive than supporting these organizations. But that's how I came down on it, and I was gonna ask questions on it, and I was gonna ask the school whether they got anything out of the what is that, Kids Free to Grow, child abuse prevention.
Leslie, do you have
There's
much
quite a
more
few
we're gonna be
cases of
talking
that.
about?
If there are,
Something
support
I'm
it.
happy
I
to
don't-
stick around, but I was just wondering if we got much more to talk about.
I don't know, I don't know, I don't think so. Oh, Article 43. That's what we want to talk about, yeah. So why don't we, why don't we do that, because that ties in with the amount of money going to lake associations, that,
Oh, okay.
Well, that was the explanation, the last time they had a road committee meeting between David and Jay, that they were gonna put money into the lake associations with the caveat that there would be restrictions on the money, and it had to be used for these road
projects
projects.
that we
And
used, that
that's the last
was funded under Article 43.
thing, but
I don't think that's going forward this year.
so
So,
it would be in our best interest, Tom, that you guys would be putting some money back into the Article 43.
That's on
To
the
get-
agenda for us to talk about.
Okay.
I
okay,
believe there's some support for doing that, but
Yeah.
I don't think the other concept, I think the road committee is still working on that.
They
So
haven't
it's-
met, Tom.
Yeah, so it's not gonna get done this year, so I believe there's an interest in going back and funding Article 43 for another year, I don't know, $6,000, whatever it is.
all right,
Uh,
so,
yeah,
I mean,
they
I
haven't
just wanted to get a clarification on that, because
Yeah.
we've heard nothing,
Yeah.
and,
Time's getting short.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll get it done,
Another month, 6 weeks, we'll be done.
yeah,
okay. So that's on your agenda then?
it
Yeah,
is.
so, all
Yeah.
right, so we can actually,
You're gonna hear more about that. I spoke to David about it, so
okay,
I don't know if it's this coming meeting or the next one, but it's gonna be out there.
okay, all right. So, do we need Tom anymore? I don't think we do.
Probably didn't need me at all anyway, so there you go.
No?
All right, thank you for coming, Tom. Thank you for opening it up so we could get out of the cold.
Oh, do I need to lock it, or what's the deal?
No, I'll do it, Tom.
You can do it,
Yeah.
without a key?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have a good night, everyone.
All right,
Thanks for
thank
coming,
you.
Tom.
Yeah,
Good conversation.
yeah.
Here it is.
So, anyone else have anything on the,
I don't agree with the Lincoln School.
With the what, I'm sorry?
The Lincoln School,
where is the Lincoln School? Which one is that?
down there somewhere. And I'll give my rationale.
Well, I don't,
I
They're
don't
asking
see
for an
Lincoln
increase.
School.
is
Well, you're
it-
talking
is-
about Acton Shapley?
I'm talking about the Lincoln School.
there's a
Acton
Li-
Shapley doing it, Acton Shapley.
Yes, Historical Society.
They
Oh,
want
Historical
$500.
Society,
Yeah.
okay.
And,
$500 more,
yes,
all right.
and I'm gonna tell you why I don't agree with it. And I've always supported the Acton Shapley Historical Society forever. When they did their inspection this year, there was, if I remember right, there was 2 things that they found needed to be addressed. 3 things, I'm sorry. One was there was a couple of nails or whatever needed to be put into the roof where the metal was loose. There was a window that needed to be repaired. And the rodent issue, the bats and the mice. And I'm not disagreeing with that, but we gave them $2,000 last year. We surely paid for somebody putting a few nails in the roof and repairing the window. And other than that, Ed Walt said, when he went over and they went through the place, that he could not believe how good a condition the place really was. And he had pictures out there, and it really looks pretty darn good on the inside, because it was maintained for many years. But I don't see the rationale for giving them more money. I mean, there's nothing, what's the plan? You know what I
Then
mean?
why don't you just request a list and, you know.
I mean, if they're gonna, if it
New-
costs $3,000 to get rid of the bats and the mice,
Yeah.
okay. If they're not gonna do it,
Yeah, would request an itemized a summary of what they
Why?
want to do.
You know what I mean?
That's simple.
Itemized summary for the funds?
Yeah, but, you know, you get what, $2,500 for you, got what, you know, so.
And if it's justified, I don't mind giving it to them.
They also have other projects going besides Lincoln School. There's stuff they're doing in Shapley too, so we don't really know where that money goes.
Yeah, but that shouldn't have anything to do
Well,
with,
there we go, you know.
with us. You know, if we're gonna go by Chapley on some of this stuff, like I said about the roads tonight, well, the municipal operations like this complex in Chapley is $200,000 less than here.
Yep.
For the same, basically size town, same services. Well, that's a huge amount of money. I don't know what the difference is, but they all got the same code enforcement people, the town clerk, tax collector, the town administrator, treasurer, grounds maintenance. I mean, I don't know. I'm more concerned of what's gonna benefit Acton. And like I say, I love these people and they do so much, but maybe what I'm saying doesn't amount to nothing. Kinda like this Lake Association thing. You're only talking $2,500, who really cares? But you put enough $2,500 up there, it makes a difference.
They get almost $100,000, when you think about it.
No, I'm just,
Yeah.
2 years ago, it was like 80,000, so it's, the thing is
It's
with,
creeping up.
with this whole budget, you know, you got your health insurance going up, you got your, salaries going up.
Your insurance is gonna go up a lot too, once the ripple effect with all the fires out in California.
Yeah, it's so like, you know, the decisions we make now are gonna be quite a bit more in time with inflation, and it's gonna come real quick, within 2-3 years.
but look at where we stand in the national average with our taxes in this state.
Yeah, but look what.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
Thank you.
The only, we're second to California.
Oh, in Maine?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And we're the highest in the country for property taxes.
And they have a budget
Oh, really?
crisis going on in Augusta right now, from what I'm
you
hearing.
know, it's crazy. Look at look at our energy costs. What are we, second in the nation, a third in the nation?
Are you higher than New Hampshire?
Energy, yeah,
Property taxes?
We're the highest in the nation in
Is it-
property taxes,
Is New
yeah.
Hampshire,
yeah.
Yeah.
really?
I gave you a copy of a
And this is
sheet
what-
that, excuse me.
Sorry.
Yeah, I gave you a copy of a sheet that Tom gave us last year, fiscal year 2023 and 2025 calculation, which, and I did an analysis between the 23 and the 25 budget, and between those 2 years, our municipal budget increased almost 21%, it was 20.95. Our school budget increased 11.14% in 2 years. And then below that, I gave you figures for the social security COLAs and for the increases in Medicare premiums. Just to give everyone kind of an idea as to the discrepancies between how rapidly our budget is increasing to how slowly our citizens on fixed incomes are getting squeezed.
And
The only thing,
Go ahead.
No, I think that last year's budget included a pretty significant road improvement plan on each road, and what was the other one?
It did, but, I mean, that's gonna be something going forward. We've got, you know,
But,
our road budget is not going down. Because, even without
Right.
those two budgets, those two projects in there. Their road budget is not going down.
but that's more of a really, it goes into the capital side of things.
Doesn't matter. This is looking at what the taxpayers are paying.
Yeah.
Whatever it's for, really is moot, and when it talks to how much money is coming out of their pocket. And our budgets are rapidly increasing, way out of whack with the increases for, our people on fixed incomes, and we have a large population of elderly. I mean, it's something that we need to think about.
Well, yeah. You're gonna have a fire truck coming at you, and you're gonna have an ambulance coming at you, and
Well, maybe
we
what we
have-
ought to do is look at I'm sure this can be real good to say, but, a 3-year tax cap on our taxes.
You'll have more deferred
More deferred
projects
what?
if you do deferred equipment purchases, and that's the only way you're gonna be able to do that.
No, I don't agree, Lee, because we got 6 million, was to 7 million to buy the new ambulance and buy the new fire truck and different things like that, without affecting the tax rate at all. That's the purpose, what we were told, about having all this extra money in the town to pay for these high-ticket items. You know what I mean, so it doesn't hit us in the tax rate.
And that may be the source.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have enough money in the bag to pay
And I'm not
for
saying
the
spend it
ambulance.
all. You know,
So the ambulance should not have to affect our tax rate at all.
no. Or the fire budget. Cause one's, to me anyway, has nothing to do with the other.
It's a capital expenditure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but it's
that's the
still,
problem, is we
it's an
don't have
expense,
a
it still
plan.
has to be paid for.
We don't have a capital plan, so we can't,
No, I'm not disagreeing with you, Dennis. Not at all.
I mean, we can't do it. You know what I mean?
No.
That's not under our, whatever, now these numbers this tax calculation, those aren't numbers that you did, it's numbers you got from the town,
Yeah, the type part is, Tom provided that.
okay?
All I
Let
did
me
was,
ask you something about it then.
yeah,
If you look at that tax calculation sheet, and you look at the total evaluation, when they set the tax, drop the tax rate to 6, whatever,
686, yeah.
6 something,
Mhm.
okay? This last year, they used the same property valuation as the year before. Am I right? The number's the same?
This. Yep,
Right,
they
right.
did, from 24 to 25, yep,
They used the same valuation,
you're right, they did.
and so they never used the new revenues from the building permits for that year. Because the revenues from that, obviously, if you put an addition on your house, for example, when the assessment done, it's gonna increase the revenues in the tax that you're paying. So in all these new houses that were assessed, I assume they are all assessed, that's what we have an assessor for. The valuation of the actual valuation of the town was more, because it goes up every year, obviously, as we all know. But they used the same number 2 years in a row. And
And it-
consequently, with the expenses going up, the tax rate had to go up. And if that number in valuation was up another $1 million or whatever, maybe they wouldn't have had to increase the taxes.
And we wouldn't have $100,000 surplus.
Should ask them about it.
Or $800,000 surplus.
Did they say 100?
Yeah,
Yeah, 800, almost $1 million in surplus.
without the school. We still don't know the school. And I did ask the school the other night if their part of the audit was done. And Paula said that, basically, yes. There was a few details that they still had to,
Right.
Work
They
on.
got a draft of it.
And I asked
so
John
we
to
should have it
Should get it.
real soon.
I asked John to forward me the amount of their surplus as soon as he had it. Just so we would have that number.
And this stuff does have something to do with us, because it's all about the money. And I know our valuation went up last year, because nobody didn't, unless the assessor didn't do anything all year and put the information in, which I can't imagine, so. But that's just me.
Anyone else have anything on these social service requests?
I did read the letter from Great East, and they're providing the services that you're getting from Acton, Wakefield, Watershed Alliance and ASYCC without, I'm assuming that's why they're putting in the request, because they're picking up the cost of doing all the CBI work.
Whatever the hell that is.
Courtesy boat inspections.
There you go. There's one boat on the Salmon Falls River, all right? It's mine.
I'm just telling you, I would think that's the rationale for why they put in the request.
Can I
Plus-
inspect it?
Whether you accept it or not, I don't know.
Plus,
but
they
it-
do water
I-
testing,
Yeah.
I
We all
inspect-
do the water testing, and we never put into
I
that.
inspect my boat every time just for leaks,
Yeah.
and it's only leaked a few times.
Only a few times. Mine used to leak so much, I used to keep the fish and catch them, put them in the bottom of the boat, and they would swim around inside.
And I might vote for all this, I don't know what to do. I just wanna have a conversation with everybody and have everybody's input. My initial thoughts quite often aren't the same as my end thoughts.
Yeah. Anyways, that's all I had. I reached out to Balch Lake, but I didn't hear back. I'll let you know.
yeah.
I think you're right, you know. Hey, Acton Wakefield probably does the service then.
And I don't know, I don't know.
But they service, man, they do
I mean, they've been all over the lake, you know, all around Great East.
and money very well spent.
Yeah. I mean, we had them come down and do a plan for us, for
Evaluation,
my
yeah.
property.
Yeah, we use ASYCC the same way.
There's at least 5 or 6 properties on my road, just on my road, that have used them.
It's kinda like the Article 43 thing,
Yeah.
the amount of people that benefit from doing these road projects around the lakes.
They wrote a
You
319
think
grant for
about
us too.
what you were saying tonight about the Lake Association and what they do to prevent contamination into the lake. And these road projects do the same thing.
Right.
And we started that 4, 5, 6 years ago, whatever it was, with $50,000. And you have thousands and thousands of people that benefit. And I'm not talking about just residents, I'm talking about people that come and use our lakes. Thousands and thousands of people that have benefited by the $50,000 we've spent in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
And the Lake Association thing, see how I can change my mind?
You can.
And sometimes I just gotta talk to myself.
All I can tell you
Change
is
my mind.
prevention's a lot better than trying to eradicate.
Exactly, like I said tonight, being proactive is a lot better than being reactive.
And I know of lakes that caught it really early, and believe it or not, were able to get it out before it really caught hold. But it takes a lot of work and a lot of inspections, a lot of volunteer time.
Yeah,
So, God bless them all.
yeah, I agree with you.
Anyone else have anything on social services?
I got a lot more to talk about, but I don't know if anybody wants to go home. It's really got nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Meeting schedule. I've set a number of meetings for us, and I've gotta send you the email, because I wasn't sure how many meetings we would need, and I wanted to get them on the books. So,
I'm running out of time.
what's that?
I says, we're getting in short time.
No, I know, that's
We're
why
supposed to be voting on everything. And it's
Our,
by March.
we
It's only
are,
4 weeks, 5 weeks.
Well,
we're
then you better
due to
start
have
talking
our,
first. We hear you, right, but, times are moving on.
we're due to have our recommendations in by March 4th. All right, so I
4
have,
weeks.
4 weeks.
I've scheduled 4 meetings. So one is Monday, February 10th. I had to do one on another Tuesday, February 18th, Monday, February 24th, and Monday, March 3rd.
Whoa, wait a minute. February 10th, what was the second one?
The 18th, I'm gonna send you an email on it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that day works so far.
These are all at 6 o'clock, right?
All at 6. The 24th
Yeah.
Okay.
and the 3rd.
So
Right,
presumably the third would
The
be.
3rd will be,
vote.
we should have all of our voting done.
But we won't have a warrant till then. The third probably.
Well, as we always have done, if we don't have enough information, we vote no.
No, that's not what I
Yeah.
mean. I'm saying we probably won't have the final warrant to vote on until the third.
Hopefully, we will have it prior to that so we can review it at home.
Good luck.
Yeah. Fine with me, you know, I like to sit there and go through stuff, aggravate Lee.
So,
Don't aggravate.
no, I
I'd
mean,
like
it's,
to aggravate Joe, but he can't hear me as well as he
What'd you say?
so,
I can't see you. Who is that?
Lori, I'm not sure if she'll slap me or not yet, so.
Don't push me.
Okay,
I
that was the
hope
first
I
question.
so those are the 4 meetings I scheduled because I needed to get them on the book so we don't have problems with conflicts with other committees,
So far, it looks good.
I mean, we got
so.
a lot of information to go over. We have nothing on the fire, nothing on the roads, nothing on the rec,
Nothing on the transfer.
transfer on the transfer, and we got a lot of, in 4 weeks to consume, I think.
You, zoning,
I haven't heard a
yeah,
thing,
we don't know if there's gonna be any zoning articles,
no idea.
I overheard something.
so,
I don't know what.
And I would like to see a consensus of the board, because this is a conversation that the selectmen have had at their meetings a few times. I would like the approval of the committee officially, that if Lori has some questions that she thinks about, that she wants, like to have an answer to, that without the approval of the whole committee, that she can email the chair and have the chair email it to the proper people to get the information. Because it's been a question, well, did the committee vote on this question, or is this an individual or whatever? And I think that, I mean, Lee, one that's always looking at stuff, he might come up with something, and I think that he should be able to email you and have you forward it. So that our next meeting or whatever, he'll have that information, especially where we're on such short time frame now. Does everybody agree with that? Yeah,
yeah.
I don't think we need to take a vote on it, but,
You wanna do that just to have it as a,
okay, I make a
Then
motion.
and then I'll be
Any,
left around.
that way it's official?
yeah, any, questions or inquisitions that anybody?
Just funnel through Leslie,
had
and
to-
What's that?
They funnel through Leslie,
don't wait for another meeting to get him out there.
and she'll forward it to the appropriate department, and hopefully we'll get the answers for our next meeting.
Yeah.
Makes
Alright.
sense.
Okay.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor? No?
Issue solved.
Yep.
Easy peasy.
No, I agree with that.
Even if I only had one that everybody agreed with tonight, at least I had one. I was just trying to think of what it would be.
Anything else?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
That's two things they agreed with me tonight on.